Now at 6, the accused Apalachee High School shooter will stand before a judge tomorrow. Colt Gray is expected to change his plea to guilty after allegedly carrying out the attack in September of 2024.
4 people were killed and 9 others hurt. Tomorrow's court appearance comes just months before his trial was set to start in Columbia County.
Atlanta News First reporter Chelsea Beimfour has more from the Barrow County Courthouse.
Court documents tell us Colt Gray is expected to enter a non-negotiated plea on Friday, meaning the state and defense have not agreed on a sentence. That will ultimately be determined by a Barrow County judge after listening to arguments from attorneys and hearing statements from the victims' families.
He's going to be entering a guilty plea to all 55 charges.
On Friday, accused Apalachee High School shooter Colt Gray, who is now 16 years old, is expected to change his plea from not guilty to guilty. He's accused of bringing a hunting rifle gifted to him by his father, Colt Gray, into Apalachee High School in September of 2024 and unleashing a barrage of bullets. The shooting killed 2 students and 2 teachers and injured 9 more. The attack was all captured on school surveillance video.
Really what people are thinking about is whether Colt Gray is going to receive life with the possibility of parole or life without the possibility of parole.
Attorney Joshua Schiffer, who is not affiliated with the case, says a non-negotiated plea means the state and defense have not reached an agreement on a sentence. They'll present arguments to the judge who will ultimately determine Colt's fate.
Colt Gray will likely end up in prison for the majority of his life. The real question people are wondering about is whether it's life without parole or whether he has some sort of horizon allowing release.
Colt's father, Colin, was convicted earlier this year on charges including second-degree murder and involuntary manslaughter after prosecutors said he gave his son access to the AR-style rifle in the mass shooting. Colin's sentencing is scheduled for later this month. Court documents say that the state is expected to present evidence like 911 calls, medical records, and social media records in their arguments, asking the judge to impose the maximum sentence for Colt Gray. Reporting from the Barrow County Courthouse, Chelsea Beimfour, Atlanta News First.